Hey guys, I hope you've been having a wonderful day. Today, I'm gonna be playing Pokemon Sword so you don't have to. And honestly, this is just an excuse to play Pokemon Sword casually. So I don't really have any rules, I'm just playing the game and I'm just taking you with me. I have no Pokemon plan, nothing, I'm just going with the flow while also telling the story. Sort of. I'm not that good at storytelling, so it's gonna be a little wonky, but I hope you work with me. And thank you for the love and support in my last video. Let's go ahead and get started. We get introduced to the world of Pokemon and how they're in the sky, the sea, and all over towns. But those who raise and train Pokemon to battle and compete are called Pokemon trainers. And in this place, there is the Galar region's greatest Pokemon trainer, the undefeated champion, Leon. So it turns out we were watching the match until we got interrupted by a guy named Hop, where he talks about the exhibition match and mentioned that Leon is his brother, the champion. He says that he's coming home and he's bringing presents and that we should meet up with him soon. So we go get ready, and before we leave our house, our mom says our book bag looks great on us. I didn't really think about it, but our book bag does go hard. We walk out the door and Hop said, "Yeesh, look at that dusty bag." And I'm like, huh? Is he talking to me? But before I can say anything, a Pokemon named Wooloo is trying to break through this gate, and Hop calms it down and says no one is allowed to go there because everyone knows how scary that place is. Now that Hop took care of that, we can go to his place now. We get there just to find out Leon's not there and he has a bad sense of direction. Great. I already know where this is going. We go into town and find this big crowd surrounding him. He does this funny pose and says something inspirational. He sees Hop and we head back to his place. Turns out that gift was our starter Pokemon. Alright, no joke, I don't really like any of these Pokemon. I think they all suck, except Grookey though. He's cool. We pick it and it turns out it's a girl. We name her Ripley and we have a cookout to end the day off. The next day we fight Hop where he cheated. How do you get to use 2 Pokemon and not me? Anyways, it doesn't matter because I beat him up so fast, it was crazy. We leave and we hear this big crash. Me personally, I'm running. But Hop said we should check it out. We find the gate open and pretty much assume it was the Wooloo. Hop says that we should go save it. I guess. We go to the forest and the farther we go, the foggier it gets. We run into this mysterious Pokemon and we try to battle it, but all our moves were missing and the fog was getting stronger. Eventually, it leaves and the Pokemon knocks us out. See, I knew something was gonna happen. Leon finds us after not coming home for a while and we asked what happened to the Wooloo. He found it while looking for us. So we leave the forest and now we gotta head into town, but before we do, we have to say bye to our mom first. After that, we go into town and go straight to the clothing store, and I didn't know how to check out the clothes at the time, so after a little bit I left like a dummy. We get introduced to Sonia, who gives us a Pokédex and tells us we should meet up with her grandma, who is the professor. So we dip. Heading down Route 2, we meet the professor, tell her about receiving a Pokédex, and we learn that she's been doing research on Dynamax for years. Yada yada. If we fight Hop and we impress Leon, we could get an endorsement letter. And I think that's how you get to face the gym. I wasn't really paying attention right here. So we fight and I beat all 3 of his Pokemon with ease. Mind you, only had 1 Pokemon, Rhea, who is already destroying everybody. We see this shooting star that hits the ground and we pick it up. Apparently it's called a wishing star, and using that, the professor turned it into a wristband. Our Pokemon could Dynamax now. Oh yeah, we catch our first Pokemon called a Choodle. We catch it and keep the name cause Choodle is cool. We go back into town and ride the train with Hop, and it turns out we're heading to the wild area with lots of Pokemon. We can fish, we can camp, we can do raids. But we get stopped by Sonia and it turns out the professor told her to touch some grass. I mean kinda. Sonia also wanted to learn more about the mysterious Pokemon we ran into. After that, we explored around the whole area and I found like no Pokemon I wanted to catch. I don't know if I'm just picky or the Pokemon around me just was not piquing my interest, but I didn't end up fighting anything. I spent some time doing raids and ran into this Applin. I caught that cause I didn't want to leave empty-handed. We leave the wild area and we make our way to Motostoke. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it just doesn't sound right when you just say Motostoke, but that's like literally all it's called. I'm gonna just call it a city. I do not care. So we make our way to Motostoke City and Sonia tells us that we have to go to the gym challenge ceremony tomorrow. Oh, but we can hold off on that because I saw a clothing store, so you know what we gotta do. After looking at some shirts and some other stuff, I found this Wooper shirt. Probably the best shirt in the game. Alright, putting our fit together, check out the drip. Spoiler alert, this was the best I could do throughout the whole game. I'm sorry, I can't dress to save my life. We eventually made it to the stadium where we meet up with Hop and sign up for the gym challenges. We run into this dude in pink and shoulder checks my guy Hop like, dang, what'd he do to you? Hop almost said something rated R, but he stopped himself. Good for him, but I could never. I know he was fuming. Oh yeah, also it turns out for the gym challenge, we get like a jersey while doing the challenge. And we can pick a number. The way I decided I was gonna do it was by doing this. I'm gonna put my hand where my dog is. And how many times he licks my hand is the number that we're gonna put. Wow, I'm hurt. Let's not talk about it. We also talked to this girl who stands out, and I mean like she doesn't look like the background character, if you know what I mean. As we talk to her, it turns out we're both from a small country town, and that's it. We get told that we're gonna be staying at an inn, and we run into Sonia again near this statue, and we learn a little bit about a big great black storm called the Darkest Day and how a gigantic Pokemon was destroying the land. And a young hero defeated the Pokemon with a sword and shield. Once that was over, we run to these guys named Team Yell, and they ain't letting us get into our room. So we beat them up, and pretty much they're fans of the girl we met briefly, and her name is Marnie. They're gonna cause us problems in the future for her sake, but even she was like, y'all need to chill. To be honest, she doesn't really like the stuff that they do, but she really can't do anything about it. Anyways, the next day rolls around, and it's ceremony time, where we see the Chairman Rose of the Pokemon League, and where we see a really cool walkout of the gym leaders. After they get introduced, it was our turn to walk out, and then it cuts off, so we just leave. Okay, I finally think we can start our journey, but that's when we get stopped by Hop and he wants to battle. My god, let me just play the game. He sends out Wooloo and I send out Ripley. With 3 branch pokes, a Razor Leaf, and Hop using a potion later, we knock it out. Next is Rookidee, and I use Scratch doing nothing, and he goes for a peck, which did a lot of damage. I keep on using Scratch and we get leered. We do it again 2 more times. How? How do you just keep using Leer and not Peck? He's just letting me win at this point. Sobble comes out blasting a water gun, but Ripley tanks it. Then using a Razor Leaf, we KO his last Pokemon. Holy cow, Ripley was not playing. On Route 3, we face all the trainers, and because of that, Ripley ended up evolving. Also, side note, when I was recording, my camera glitched. Out of nowhere, that was so weird. I honestly almost stopped recording for today because that junk was just straight up creepy. Alright, so now we're in the Galar Mines, and I just want to talk about how nice it is and how vibrant and shiny the stones are. Also, this Pokemon on the tracks is a nice touch, and on the bridge, seeing all the Woobats go by was awesome. I just wish that we could go down there and explore a little bit. At the end of the mine, we run into that dude in pink, and he talks about how he got endorsed by the chairman, and how that's way more impressive than getting endorsed by the champion. But I don't know, I beg to differ. So we fight about it. He sends out Solosis and I send out Choodle. I land first using Bite, KOing his Solosis. Next was Gothita, and with another bite, I almost knock it out. But it lives and uses Psybeam. It didn't hurt too bad, but it did get the confusion. Next turn, we land the bite, knocking it out. His last Pokemon was a Hatenna. Oh my god. How do you say this? His last Pokemon was a Hatenna. Using Bite, we get a flinch, and we do it again while still confused, knocking it out, winning the battle. He says that he's gonna remember our fighting style, and he's gonna leave because he already collected every wishing star in this cave. So he does. As soon as I enter Turffield, Hop says that Sonia wants to talk, so she gives us another history lesson, something about the Darkest Day and what connection it has to Dynamaxing. She says she's gonna look more into it, and we leave. I don't know how long this is, but we are finally at our first gym challenge. It also turns out with each gym, there's a challenge we gotta do before we can face the gym leader. So it's not like the regular one where you just kind of like make your way through it and just like face a couple trainers. It's a little bit different. And for this challenge, we gotta herd some Wooloo to wherever it wants us to take them. After doing that for a little while, we make our way to the stadium where we fight our first gym leader, Milo. He sends out Glossy Floor, and I send out Ripley using Screech while he goes for a round. I use Double Hit, leaving it on orange while he goes for a Rapid Spin, not doing much. I knock it out with a Branch Poke. He sends out Eldegoss, Dynamaxes, and I use Screech, and I get Max Strike, barely living. We Dynamax, and then we have a Max Strike duel until Ripley faints. Alright, this part is a little disappointing for our first gym, but all I do is send out Applin and use Astonish until I win. Eldegoss faints, and we get our first badge. I'm sorry, this was such a bad match. On Route 5, we see Team Yell bothering someone. So after beating them up, they run away and the guy gives us a bike. Now we can go super fast. Hop wants to battle again, but to save us some time, Ripley was the only Pokemon I used. Now that we are in Hulberry, we get this cutscene with the chairman and his assistant, Aliana, talking to B-Day, and the chairman didn't know who he was. Yikes, that's embarrassing. I would never leave my room if that happened to me. We pop in and Aliana said once we beat the gym to meet up with the chairman at the restaurant. So we go do that, but it turns out the gym leader ain't even there, and now we have to go find the gym leader. It turns out she was at the lighthouse. She was not hard to find. We talked for a little bit and now we can do the gym challenge. This challenge is pretty much a puzzle and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little lost trying to solve this. My small brain could not handle how to solve it at first. But eventually I figured it out and now we can face the gym leader, Nessa. So I'm not gonna lie, her first two Pokemon get one shot with Razor Leaf and things ain't looking good for her. So her last Pokemon is a Dreadnought and she Dynamaxes. So we Dynamax as well. I get Max Strike and take a flat blow. I use Max Overgrowth, leaving it on red HP. Next turn, I get Max Strike and I live with 1 HP. I swear I was dead. I use one last Max Overgrowth, knocking her last Pokemon out. Yikes. How crazy is that? I will say though, it was still pretty easy. It was just a bad matchup for her because, you know, I had a grass and, you know, she just had water. It sucks too because I think she's great, but we get our badge and leave. Oh yeah, we meet up with Rose but left after a little minute, so we leave too. We go inside another mine and we run into B-Day and he talks some major trash again, so we battle again. I send out Choodle and no joke, we didn't take damage for 3 of his Pokemon. I was straight wiping the floor until his last Pokemon came out. we low-key got whooped, but we still came out on top, mostly sweeping this dude, which also caused Choodle to evolve, and now it's a Dreadnought. And this is the reason why I didn't give it a name, because I think Dreadnought is a super cool name. Towards the end of the cave, we meet up with the next gym leader, Kabu, and he tells us that he'll be waiting for us. Right outside the mine, we get our next Pokemon, and we get our own Hetenna, and we name her Ruby. We stay in the inn for the night, run into Marnie who wants to battle us to see if she's ready for the gym, so we do. She sends out Croagunk and completely destroys Ruby with a sucker punch. So I send out Ripley and go for a Razor Leaf, while Croagunk goes for a Venoshock. That obviously slaps me up. We go back and forth and I somehow came on top with 9 HP. That was scary. Scraggy comes out and I use one last Razor Leaf before getting knocked. Sitting out Dreadnought using Headbutt, we finish off Scraggy. She sends out her last Pokemon, Morpeko, and uses Thundershock while I go for Bite. Morpeko uses another Thundershock and I use Rock Tomb, finally doing decent amount of damage. And we also lowered its speed. So next turn, we attack first, finishing off the Morpeko. I'm not gonna lie, I was low-key struggling. So with that, we can face the next gym, and this time we have to do this contest where we pretty much catch or faint fire type Pokemon, and once you get like 5 points you can face the gym leader. It was super easy. So I caught a Vulpix and a Litwick, and I thought you would just like return it once you won, but you actually get to keep them, so that was kind of cool. I keep them in my party, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna use them. So with that, let's face the fire type gym leader, Kabu. Ninetales comes out and I send out Dreadnought. Ninetales is faster, so it lands a Will-O-Wisp, burning us and lowering our attack. Our downfall begins. After a couple of turns, I did knock it out, but from here, it only gets worse. Arcanine comes out and gets an Intimidate, lowering our attack even more. At this point, I'm screwed. I switch out and lose the 2 Pokemon that I just got, and that's when I found it. Ruby knows Aromatherapy. If I land it, then Dreadnought can be cured. I send out Ruby, and Arcanine uses Bite, and I live with 3 HP, but no! I get flinched! This was a joke. A great joke even. After that, Dreadnought couldn't do enough damage, and Applin and Ripley didn't stand a chance. With that, I lost to my first gym leader. Yikes. That was so bad. I had like such false hope. It was insane. Alright, I know what happened. It's because I never got a haircut. That's gotta be the reason. We get a new haircut and level up a little bit. And it's time for our rematch. This time, the Will-O-Wisp missed and I used Rock Tomb, getting her on red HP, also lowering her speed. We attack first with Rock Tomb and it goes down. Arcanine comes out, and since my attack got lowered, I switched into Vulpix and Arcanine went for a Will-O-Wisp, but it did nothing because of Flash Fire. I landed Confuse Ray and waited until Vulpix got taken out to safely switch into Dreadnought. Arcanine hits itself with confusion while I go for a crit Rock Tomb, taking it out. Centiskorch is last and we both Dynamax, but I go first using Max Rockfall. KOing the Centiskorch. What did I tell you? I just needed a haircut. We get our badge and leave. So now that we're in the wild area, B-Day comes and starts talking some mad trash again, saying stop trying because we ain't beating the gym challenges, and then told Hop that Leon was crazy to endorse him and he can't even throw a Pokeball. So Hop was not gonna let the disrespect slide any longer, and they go battle, but before they do, B-Day said, I'm gonna make you realize how trash you are. Like, bro, what'd he do to you? So they go off to battle and we just start exploring. And did you know that you could do like time trials on your bike? I'm not gonna lie, I was doing these for a hot minute. They're kind of fun. While I was doing it, I came across this Pokemon that I never used before. It's called a Kufant. The first one I ran into, I killed it. So the second one I ran into was a straight turd and it didn't want to stay in the ball. But eventually, I did catch it and named it Jamie. We were about to go into town, but we ran into B-Day just to flex that he wiped the floor with Hop. Oh no! And then he just leaves like, bruh. He did that. I can't even be mad. Now that we're in Hammerlock, let's check the closeout. To be honest, I didn't like much, but I did change my look a little bit. Now going back to the story, B-Day tells the chairman that he's been collecting wishing stars and badges as fast as he can, and that if he collects enough wishing stars, he's going to be able to help him with the problem he's been having. And the chairman pretty much said that it's not for him, it's for the whole region. Right. Sounds suspicious if you ask me. Aliana tells B-Day that they have things to discuss and they leave. Chairman Rose tells us that the energy is absorbed from Hammerlock Tower and they turn that into electricity, which they use to run the whole region. And that by collecting wishing stars, they might be able to harness the power in them to improve everyone's daily life even more. So with that, we run into Leon, who says that we should talk to Raihan because he's the last gym leader we have to face. But Raihan just tells us that we should talk to Sonia. But before we do that, I was messing with these Pokejobs. Not sure what they do, but I did send one of my Pokemon and it'll be back in 8 hours. Alright, after 8 hours, I'll tell you what happens. We meet up with Sonia and she shows us these paintings and how two people are watching a wishing star, and then a disaster happens. Then we see two guys with a sword and shield that stop the disaster, and then the two guys being crowned. Sonia tells us when we met at the hotel, the statue we saw only had one person on it. But here we found there was actually two people. We ended up having more questions than answers, and then she tells us good luck with our next gym challenge, and we leave. On Route 6, we run into Hop again. He says he got trashed by B-Day, and how B-Day told him he's dragging Leon's name through the mud because how bad he is. He says he's gonna have to figure out what he wants to do about it and leaves. Feels bad, man. We also run into this old lady named Opal, and that she's going to be watching us and seeing what we can do. After that, she leaves, so we go back to exploring. While I was facing some trainers, Ruby evolved, which we're definitely going to need for this next gym. We go into town and run into Hop again, and he says all he can do is get stronger, and he challenges us to a battle. He sends out a Cramorant, and I send out Ruby. He goes for a dive, which makes us miss a Psybeam. Next turn, he lands the dive, which did more than half. This time, I was able to land the Psybeam, which did an okay amount. And then out of nowhere, Cramorant just threw a fish at me. The disrespect. Next turn, he does it again, and I had enough. So I switch into Dreadnought using Rock Tomb, KOing the dumb bird. But before it goes away, it slaps me with the fish. Now, what type of mess is this? That's crazy. So that was the only interesting part about the fight. After that, I straight whooped the rest of his team. I won pretty easily. He leaves and Opal appears and says that he should worry about his own Pokemon and not someone else's, and says, why worry about the champion's name when we all know he's unbeatable? And she's not wrong. She gives us info about the gym we're about to challenge and leaves. So for this gym challenge, what we gotta do is pretty much get inside this Beyblade and spin to our destination while fighting trainers along the way. Now everything was going smoothly until I didn't have any heals right after the fights. So eventually Ruby died and then the rest of my team followed because my team is either neutral or pretty weak to fighting types. After dying, I get some items, go back to the gym challenge, win the fight that we lost, and now we can face the gym leader, BA. Now the strategy is to use all my other Pokemon before using Ruby, for anyone curious about what I'm about to do. Okay, so she sends out Hitmontop and I send out Dreadnought using Waterfall, doing a little bit more than half. But I get countered, absolutely rocking my socks. I use another Waterfall because it looks like it can kill, and yeah, it lives on red HP. And then it counters, knocking me out. If you see my face, the utter shock that I didn't kill was insane. I send out Jamie and use a stomp, knocking it out. Pangoro comes out and just circle throws me to the moon, KOing me super easily. I send out Ripley and I use Screech while Pangoro goes for a workup. We do that for a little bit until I use Razor Leaf, KOing it. I got real lucky with that. Sirfetch'd is next and I used Screech until I was on red HP, then went for a Razor Leaf, knocking it out. She sends out her last Pokemon, Machamp, and straight up, no mercy, it Dynamaxes and sends me to the Doom Dimension. Now that I'm on my last Pokemon, I send out my MVP, Ruby, and I go ahead and Dynamax, and in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna one-shot, and I'm about to win. But I got hit first, KOing me, making me lose terribly. Yeah, that's embarrassing. You know what that means. New drip and time for a haircut with some level ups. And evolutions? What? How did that happen? Say hi to the new and improved team. Now it's time for our rematch. This time I sent out Ruby and used the wrong move. But it's okay because Hitmontop used counter, so it didn't hit me at all. Next turn, I use Psychic, knocking it out. Pangoro comes out and I switch it to Jamie, where I Rock Smash twice and we get Circle Throwed, which made us switch into Dreadnought. We use Waterfall, knocking it out. Next is Sirfetch'd, so I switch back to Jamie using a Heavy Slam, and I get revenge, so Jamie goes down. I send Ruby out using a Psychic, taking it out. But Machamp is still faster, KOing us, bruh. It was supposed to be the other way around. I send out Ripley using Screech while we get G-Max Chi Strike. Next turn, I go for a Drum Beating and I get Max Darkness. And I live with 13 HP. Ripley is going crazy. Machamp turns back to normal. I go for a final Drum Beating, but I leave it on red HP. No! But we did lower its speed. After that, we get knocked out. So I send out Dreadnought and use a Waterfall, giving us the win. Shout out Ripley, who was holding it down. Ain't no way we were supposed to live that. We get our badge and leave. I'm not gonna lie, these are getting real tough when you don't train. Leaving the building, Sonia comes up to us and tells us that there's a mural nearby that tells the story about the hero of Galar. When we hear this big boom, so we run over there because we're some nosy people, and it turns out that it's B-Day and he is destroying the mural we were just talking about. He says that there might be some wishing stars behind it, and it also turns out that the Pokemon he is using to break the mural is the chairman's Pokemon. So we try to stop him by battling him. Now his whole team are psychic type Pokemon, and with Dreadnought I was able to wipe his whole team with ease. After beating him, he starts to go crazy because he lost, saying that he was chosen by the chairman and how he was supposed to defeat the champion, and that he was also gonna be someone who could shorter the future of Galar. And that's when the chairman and his assistant came to see what happened. Aliana said that she can't believe he used the chairman's Pokemon to break a historical site. We learned that he's doing this because the next 1,000 years are at stake? Huh? I'm lost. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I think I missed something. Anyways, then the chairman said that he was disappointed in B-Day and that when he found him, he reminded him of himself when he was young. And that he sent him to school so that he could be someone great. And that trying to destroy the mural is a big part of Galar's history, and now he's not a worthy challenger for the gym challenges. So now they're gonna decide what to do with him, and B-Day is losing his mind. He did all this for the chairman, and now everything he's lived for was in vain. Not only that, Aliana also took all his wishing stars that he's been collecting. That's crazy. After that, they take him away and the mural that B-Day was destroying fully breaks down, revealing something more about Galar, and that maybe it wasn't just two heroes who saved the Galar region, but two Pokemon with a sword and shield that saved Galar. Now that Sonia has more information, she leaves and we make our way to our next town, which looks amazing. Just look at this. You can't tell me this doesn't look cool. And the Pokemon that are just chilling around the place? Chef's kiss. So we go straight to the gym, and it turns out that Opal was looking for someone to take over her gym, and we might be the ones to take it. So the way this gym challenge works is that when we are facing an opponent, she's gonna ask us some questions, and if we get them right, we get a buff, and if we get them wrong, we get a debuff. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and skip it, but let's just say I got 2 out of 3 wrong. I know, it's embarrassing. Alright, before we face the gym leader, she's gonna be asking us questions as we battle, but I'm not gonna mention them, so I just wanted to let y'all know before I went ahead and got started. She sends out a Weezing, and I send out Dreadnought. I go for a Waterfall while she goes for a Fairy Wind. After 2 more Rock Tombs, I finally knock it out. Next, she sends out Mawile, and I use our new move, Jaw Lock. Yeah, it didn't do much. We get crunched, and we go for another Waterfall, and we get crunched again. This time I use Rock Tomb, and it still wasn't enough. She goes for another crunch, and finally, after another Rock Tomb, I knock out the Mawile. Togekiss comes out, and I use Rock Tomb while she used Draining Kiss, getting some health back. Next turn, I use another Rock Tomb, taking the Togekiss out. Her last Pokemon is an Alcremie and Dynamaxes. I use Waterfall doing half and get taken out by a G-Max Finale. I send out Ripley and use a Drum Beating and tank another G-Max Finale. Next turn, we get taken out by the same move. Her Pokemon goes back to normal, and I send out Jamie and use a Heavy Slam, finding out that Steel types are strong against Fairy. Dude, this could have ended a long time ago. I genuinely didn't know that Steel types were strong against Fairy. Opal tells us that we are a good trainer, but not pink enough to take over her gym. She says she has someone else in mind and gives us our badge, and we leave. While leaving the building, Opal comes out and says she has some errands she has to run, and asks if we want to tag along, so we do. We make our way to Hammerlock. Once we get there, we find B-Day in the middle of town, and we talk to him. He starts talking trash because he thinks we're gonna make fun of him because he can't do the gym challenges anymore. Opal sees this and says how sincere and straightforward he was, and how also twisted and misguided he sounded while he was talking to us. She says this is what she's been looking for, and how she might be able to help him, so he agrees. We go our separate ways, heading to our next location. We run into Hop again, asking for another battle, so we do. But I'm pretty sure this video is already long enough as I'm writing this poorly written script, so we're gonna go ahead and skip it. Just know I have another win against him. We go through some routes where we make it to this snowy area near Sir Chester, where I run into this little booger named Snom. I accidentally killed it, but after finding another one, this one was a turd to catch, but when we finally did catch it, we named her Jade. Now this one is a little bit different because we have to get some friendship training in to evolve her. So there's this thing called PokeCamp where we can play, talk, and also eat with our Pokemon to get high friendship. So now we grind. Oh, there we go. Oh, you're showing signs of life. Oh, you're awesome. Do it again. Do it again. Ah, let's go. That is the best dish I've made so far. Nice. I love it. What? Hold on. So we spent a long time messing around, but it wasn't enough. The friendship was still not there. So I did some research, and then I went to the wild area and started collecting berries like there was no tomorrow. Any tree I saw, I took every berry. After that, the cycle continues. We catch, talk, and played for hours, and I mean hours. Now it's time to give it a rare candy. But nothing happens. I was so confused, like, huh? Turns out it has to be nighttime, so I do a little time change on my Switch, and it still didn't evolve. What do you mean? And it turns out that I should do it in the wild area. I had left, but I went back and we try again, and Jade evolved. Look at her. She's beautiful. Dude, the amount of times I thought the friendship was high enough and it wasn't was insane. I was getting a little frustrated, I can't lie. I'm not gonna even show it just cause I was going through it. I'm telling you. I felt like it took way too long. Alright, now we can go to Sir Chester where we could get new drip. Check it out. Also, you know what that means. Gym leader time. Now for this gym challenge, we get these things in our hands that tell us if there's a hole in the ground or not. and we try to make it to the other side without falling. And my god, this was the worst thing I've ever done. I fell so many times doing this. I was fuming after I finished. But once I was able to go through it, it was time to face the next gym leader, Gordy. He sends out Barbarical and I send out Jamie. He's faster and goes for a Razor Shell and I go for a Heavy Slam. Next turn he goes for a Shell Smash, which made me hit Barbarical with another Heavy Slam, taking it out. His next Pokemon is a Shuckle. Wait a minute. Shuckle? This man's wildin'. How is he a gym leader with a Shuckle? Anyways, I use a Heavy Slam KOing the Shuckle. That's crazy. It didn't last 2 seconds on the field. He sends out Stone Joiner and uses Stealth Rock while I go for another Heavy Slam. Next turn, it uses Wonder Room, which switches our defense and special defense, and I go for a Dig. When it's time to land, it knocks it out. His last Pokemon is a Colossal, and I switch into Dreadnought, taking some damage from Stealth Rock. We both Dynamax, and I land first using a Max Geyser, KOing his last Pokemon. We get our badge and leave. We meet Sonia again, who wants to talk to us about something and to celebrate our win at the restaurant. She tells us that she still doesn't know anything about the Darkest Day or the Sword and Shield Pokemon, where we conveniently find this poster on the wall where the two people are sad and that the Pokemon looked sealed away. Hop talks about how we saw this mysterious Pokemon way back in that foggy forest. Maybe there's some clues there. Sonia said that she might check it out later, and after eating, she wants to head somewhere where the heroes bathe. After going there, Sonia said maybe we're the new heroes. After that, Hop has the urge to battle us again, so we do. Nothing is worth mentioning though, just another battle where I win. But this time, he feels way better about himself and is feeling good again. And honestly, I'm glad that he's in higher spirits now. He tells us about the next place called Spike Mount and he leaves. On Route 9, we run into Team Yell, who is trying to stop people from going to Spike Mount because apparently that's where their hometown is. Also, the guy who gave us the bike is here too, so we beat those grunts, and the guy gives us an upgrade where we can ride our bikes on the water. Honestly, this is pretty fun, but I felt like I was getting chased by the boogeyman with these blue octopuses running after us, and why were they so fast? Once we reach land, we find out that the town's entrance is closed, so nobody can enter and face the gym. That's when Marnie pops up and tells us to come over to where she is, and that's where we find another entrance. She knows this because she was born here, but before we can go in, we have to face her. Now, before we start, I forgot to heal, and I don't want to use heals during battle, so with that, she sends out Lightbard, and I send out Ripley. I get Sucker Punch, almost taking me out, and I use a drum beating, one-shotting the Lightbard. She sends out Toxicroak and wipes the floor with me. To be fair, my Pokemon were already low, if not on red HP already. So like I said, she wipes the rest of my team. I did end up taking down the Toxicroak, but it didn't help. Alright, rematch time. I still take out the Lightbard with a drum beating, then Toxicroak comes out, and I switch into Ruby. I get Sucker Punch, almost getting knocked. I go for a Psychic, KOing Toxicroak. Yeesh, that could have went wrong so fast. Scrafty comes out and takes Ruby out, so I send out Jamie and I get Brick Breaked. I go for a Heavy Slam. Next turn, I get taken out by another Brick Break. I send out Ripley and use a drum beating, finishing off the Scrafty. Her last Pokemon is a Morpeko, and I use a drum beating, almost knocking it out, while I get crunched. Next turn, she heals, so I just do the same thing until I win. Well, that wasn't too bad, but now we can face the next gym. So for this gym challenge, we gotta beat a whole bunch of Team Yell members because they want to make sure we don't make the gym challenges. That way Marnie has one less person to worry about. Obviously, we beat all of them up, and now we can face the gym leader, Pierre's. He also tells us that we don't Dynamax here, so that's a nice change of pace. He sends out Scrafty while I send out Jade. We get faked out, so we couldn't do anything. I use Bug Buzz, doing about half, and he uses Payback, almost taking us out. Next turn, I take it out with another Bug Buzz, and he sends out a Malamar. He knocks Jade out, so I send out Ruby and get hit with a foul play. I use a Dazzling Gleam, one-shotting the Malamar. Obstagoon comes out and takes Ruby out with a Shadow Claw, so I send out Jamie, and Obstagoon uses Obstruct, and all you need to know is that it harshly lowered my defense, eventually taking me out. I send Ripley out and Obstagoon used Obstruct again, but I used Screech so it cancelled itself out. Next turn, I get Throat Chop, preventing me from using Screech. How did he predict that? That's wild, man. I used Drum Beating, but Obstagoon used Obstruct first, blocking my Drum Beating. He's cheating. Ain't no way. He actually predicted what I was gonna do. Next turn, we get Throat Chop. I used Drum Beating after that, and he used Obstruct, blocking my Drum Beating again. So nothing happened. I go for another Drum Beating, and bro, how? How is he this tanky? What is going on? He used counter, taking me out. I'm done. I'm actually done for the day. This dude is insane. I sent out Dreadnought using Waterfall, finally taking that big raccoon down. I'm actually fuming. Stunk Tank is next, and I use Waterfall that made it flinch. So I get a free turn. I do it again and win the battle. I took a big break after this. I was so mind blown. You know what? Give me my badge. I'm leaving. But before we do, we find out that Pierre's sister is Marnie and that he wants her to take over the gym after the Champions Cup. But Marnie said, why? You're doing a great job being a gym leader, and who cares if you don't Dynamax your Pokemon? Bro, don't let this man do it. He's a monster. In the end, Marnie said no because she wants to become champion, and she can't do that if she's the gym leader. So Pierre said, good point. After that, it's her turn to battle him. So we leave. While leaving, we get informed that something bad is happening, and even the champion came to see what's going on. We go outside and run into Leon, who says that don't worry about it, he's gonna solve the problem. He told us to stick to the goal and win the gym challenges and leave the problem to him, since after all he is the champion. And I can respect that, cause tell me why in any other Pokemon game when there's a problem, why is it that the champion is chilling somewhere and we have to go fix it? Anyways, we have one last gym to challenge, so let's go ahead and do that. On our way there, we run into Hop, who tells us that Leon solved the problem and we should see him in Hammerlock. We find him with Sonia and find out that this overflowing red light made some Pokemon start to Dynamax on their own, and who knows when it's gonna happen again. We also find out that the red light and the darkest day are connected because it's similar to what happened on the darkest day when a Pokemon turned big and almost destroyed the whole Galar region. We try to help, but Leon said don't worry about it, and to finish the gym challenges so that we can face him at the Champions Cup. We all go our separate ways while I get ready to face the last gym. So for this gym, it's a bit different in the sense that Raihan tells us what the gym challenge is and not one of his trainers. So pretty much he tells us that we're gonna be doing double battles. So I never do double battles, so I'm not too confident, but hey, it is what it is. So I didn't do too bad, but I did have to heal a lot after every fight, but I wasn't too worried about it. Alright, it's time for our last gym leader, Raihan. He sends out Flygon and Gigalith sets up a Sandstorm, while I send out Ruby and Jade. Flygon used Steel Wing on Ruby, and with Jade I use Attract on Flygon. And with Ruby I use Dazzling Gleam, hitting both of our opponents, but I do the most damage on Flygon, taking it down to red HP. Gigalith used Rock Blast on Jade, knocking her out. I sent out Ripley and we get hit with a Breaking Swipe, but it didn't affect Ruby and it also lowered our attack on Ripley. So when I used Drum Beating on Gigalith, it didn't kill, but it's okay. I used Dazzling Gleam again and knocked both of our opponents at once. Ruby's cracked. Duraludon and Sandaconda come out, and he Dynamaxes his Duraludon and Max Spikes Ruby, knocking her out. I use Drum Beating on the Sandaconda, doing a little less than half, and it glares at me and I get paralyzed. Next turn, I Dynamax Dreadnought and I get hit by a Max Knuckle, which honestly didn't do as much as I thought. I used Max Geyser on the Sandaconda, knocking it out. But before it left the field, it used Sand Spit, making another Sandstorm. I just got rid of it. With Ripley, I used High Horsepower, not doing much at all, and Duraludon used another Max Knuckle on Dreadnought, leaving me with 32 HP. I use a Max Geyser with a crit and do almost nothing. What do you mean? I use another High Horsepower, not doing much, and Duraludon turned back to normal. It also used Body Press, taking Dreadnought out. With Ripley, I used High Horsepower, leaving it on red HP. I sent out Jamie, and when it was her turn, I used Rock Smash, being Raihan's last Pokemon, and we finally get our last badge. On our way to the station, Hop tells us to wait because he just beat Raihan too. So we go to the train together where Hop talks about how we will compete in the gym challenge at Wyndham Stadium. Stadium, where the whole world is going to be watching us. Now, before we can get there, we have to go on Route 10. And while we were there, we caught it Mr. Mime and we named it Heart. Not too long after that, we make it to Winden. We are finally at our last location. You know what that means. Time to check out the clothes shop. I did buy something, but I just ended up wearing the clothes that I bought in the beginning of our journey. We level up a bit before the gym challenge because I expect them to be a higher level and Heart evolves. After that, we make our way to Winden Stadium where we sign up and get ready for the semi-finals. Once we are ready, we face our first opponent, who happens to be Marnie. Now, before we start, I am a little mad that I made my Pokemon too strong for these battles, so just know I am a little annoyed about it. She sends out Lightbard and I send out Heart. After messing around using Mirror Coat for a bit, Lightbard used Nasty Plot and I go for a Thunderbolt, doing about half. Next turn, she used Snarl, KOing Heart. I send out Jade and we get Snarl again, doing so much damage. What the heck? We go for a Bug Buzz, taking the Lightbard out. After this, we start destroying her whole team. With Ruby, I KO Scrafty with Dazzling Gleam. And with Jamie, using a Dig, I take out the Toxicroak. After that, Morpeko comes out and using one Play Rough, I knock it out. Her last Pokemon is a Grimmsnarl and she Dynamaxes and uses a G-Max Snooze and it does a little bit more than half. While I go for an Iron Head, one-shotting her last Pokemon, winning the match. She tells us that she's gonna watch the tournament, but she doesn't know if she's gonna cheer for us. And honestly, I would pray on my downfall with how that match went. We head back to the locker room and it turns out that Hop is our next opponent. Before the match, he talks to us and he says he had a flashback when we first started our journey and how when we got our first Pokemon, he never dreamed that he was gonna face us with all these people here. But it's time to finish what he started that day. He says he will become the champion. He sends out Double and I send out Jamie. He uses Cotton Guard and I go for a Body Press. Next turn we get Body Slam while we use Iron Head. He goes for a Zen Headbutt but misses and I use another Iron Head, knocking out the Double. He sends out Munchlax and I use Body Press while he goes for a Hammer Arm. He misses? Holy cow, that's some bad luck right there. We both do the same thing, but this time Hammer Arm lands, doing a big chunk of damage. Since we are faster, with one last Body Press, we knock it out. His next Pokemon comes out and after using Dig and Play Rough, we knock it out. Corviknight comes out and after we do 3 Body Presses, we finally get taken out by a Dropek. I send Heart out and we get Steel Wing, doing a little more than half, and I use Thunderbolt, taking it down. Inteleon comes out and Dynamaxes, taking Heart out. So I send out Ripley and Dynamax and we get Max Quake. Not doing much at all though. We use a Max Overgrowth, KOing his last Pokemon, winning the fight. He's upset but still a good sport about it. He thanks us for battling him and honestly, I wanted him to win now that I actually read the story. I was rooting for him in the end. Hop tells us when Sonia said we could be heroes, he never felt like one, but he thinks we can do all sorts of great things. After that, we leave and Leon shows up and says he had tears coming down his face while watching us and how far we both come. Hop says that the real challenge is what's coming next and that he's tired now and he's ready to lay down. When Leon said that we should eat somewhere, so me and Hop make our way to the restaurant while we wait for him. Several hours later and Leon is still not here. He thinks something's up because he's never this late. Pierre's comes by and says that he saw the champion head towards Rose Tower, but something's fishy. Hop asks Pierre's to take us to the Rose Tower, and Pierre's agrees because it's a problem for him too if the finals are held up for any reason. He also said that he was bringing Team Yell 2 to help us out. Before we can head there, Aliana finds out and says the chairman Rose and the champion are having a very important meeting, and she's not gonna let anyone interfere. She gives a certain league staff a key, and now we have to find him if we want to go to Rose Tower. After a little bit, we find him and he heads to the station, where Pierre's causes a distraction and we find the key and we head up Rose Tower, where we faced a bunch of trainers, and I mean a bunch. We eventually reach the top, but Aliana is not gonna let us pass without a fight, so we battle. We were able to take her first 2 Pokemon out without taking any damage. Then she sends out Serena and I send out Jade. She uses Acrobatics, one-shotting me. So I switch into Ruby and get hit with a Trop Kick while I use Psychic. Next turn, she goes for an Acrobatics and with another Psychic, I take it out. She sends out Milotic and uses Aqua Ring while I use Thunderbolt. After this, I kid you not, she would recover every turn. It was ridiculous. Once I got tired of going back and forth, I switched it to Ripley and I used one drum beating, taking Milotic out. Her last Pokemon is a Garbodor and I send out Heart. She Dynamaxes and uses a G-Max Malador, almost taking me out, which also hit us with a poison. I use Psychic, doing a little less than half. Next turn, we get Max Rockfall, knocking Heart out. I send out Jamie and Dynamax and get hit with a Max Quake. I use a Max Steel Spike, knocking her last Pokemon out, winning the battle. Aliana would try to stall us further, but there's no point because they have enough Wishing Stars now and we can't do anything now. She lets us go. We get this cutscene of the chairman and Leon talking. We learn from Leon that they're gonna cancel tomorrow's tournament in order to solve a problem 1,000 years away. And Leon is wondering, why do we have to solve a problem so far away that it won't even affect us? What difference does a day make to have to cancel tomorrow's tournament? Leon says the duty as a champion isn't this madness that the chairman is wanting to do, but it's to carry out the championship matches. The chairman says that you don't understand at all the energy we are using that keeps this place brilliant and glittering will eventually run out. And the people in Galar today won't even be alive. What they want today doesn't matter. The future is more important than just one day. We must act quickly to avoid tragedy for a better future. Leon understands and gives his word to help out, but only after tomorrow's match is over. We finally meet up with them and ask what happened because Leon never came to dinner. That's when Rose said there are times when adults can't have honest discussions with each other. Leon shrugs it off and tells us, let's go to the hotel and grab some dinner. Leon turns back to the chairman and says, I hope you watch tomorrow's match, and leaves. Chairman Rose, still disagreeing with the champion, says he's not changing his mind. He's still gonna do it tomorrow. The next day rolls around and it's time to go to the finals of this Champions Cup. As we make our way to the stadium, B-Day appears out of nowhere and asks for one last match between us. We learn that Opal sent him to boot camp to learn all about fairy type Pokemon. If he loses, he will retire from being a trainer. The higher ups allows us to battle. Now, because I'm squeezing this in, because I totally forgot about him, we won't get into the details besides I absolutely destroyed him. Anyways, because he poured his heart and soul into this battle, the audience loved him and convinced him to keep being a trainer, and with that, he will now be the new fairy type gym leader. With that, we can go back to regular scheduled programming and face BA. Now, it's unfortunate for her, this was a squash match. Using heart, I one-shot Hawlucha and Sirfetch'd with a psychic. Now, the Fall Links did take out Heart with a close combat, but I sent out Ripley and using a couple of drum beatings, I knock it out. We did the same thing with Grappalog, and now it's time for her ace Pokemon, Machamp. I sent out Ruby and we both Dynamax, and we do a little back and forth until I finish this off with a Max Starfall. I will say, facing all those grunts just to talk to Leon and the chairman did make this 10 times easier, so I could only wonder what could have happened if my Pokemon weren't so overpowered. We head back inside and we run into Pierre's and Marnie and find out that Pierre's lost to Raihan and that they will be rooting for us as we prep up and get ready to face our last opponent, Raihan. He sends out Turcoil and I send out Jamie. Unfortunately for us, Turcoil sets up a drought and I was not ready for what he was about to do with it. We start off by using Dig, doing about half. He goes for a yawn, so I decide to switch into Dreadnought, taking a Lava Plume and also getting burned. Next turn, I use Waterfall, doing practically nothing. Turcoil uses Solar Beam, knocking us out. Ain't no way. That was insane. But I'm not gonna lie, after this, it was smooth sailing. From here, all I did was switch into whoever had a better chance at winning and start KOing his Pokemon one by one. Before I knew it, we were facing his last Pokemon and he Dynamaxes, taking out Jamie. But not in vain, because Jamie lasted long enough to where his Pokemon turned back to normal. And with Ripley, I use a drum beating, taking him out. And with that, we can face Leon to see if he retains and stays champion, or do I, a person who got endorsed by Leon himself, take the title as champion. We go to the back to prepare for the champion when Hop gives us a pep talk saying if anyone can beat Leon, it's you. He leaves and I low-key dedicate this to him because my guy deserves better. We head to the stadium where we find Leon already on the field. He says, I am the champion Leon, and with my team I will use everything I've learned to crush you where you stand. Ooh, I'm getting chills. That's when we get interrupted and something's happening on the big screen, and we see Chairman Rose pop up and says it's time to bring about the darkest day for the sake of Galar's future, as these red beams start to pop up throughout the whole Galar region. The chairman says, "It's you who forced my hand, Leon. You refused to listen." Oh, come on. I just wanted to face the champion. Anyways, we head back inside and find Hop and Leon talking, and Leon says he has to go and solve this problem. He realizes he should have known better, and he's gonna take responsibility and leaves. Hop starts to talk about how this all looks and sounds familiar, and that maybe Sonia was onto something. What about the Sword and Shield Pokemon from the legend long ago? That maybe they can help us out. Last time we checked, we told Sonia to check out the Foggy Forest because we saw that Pokemon. And you know what? We should head there too. We meet up with Sonia and catch her up with what's going on right now, and she says that we all onto something and we should go inside the forest. She says she's gonna stay behind until she's done looking into something because something is still bothering her. We go inside and we find two Pokemon who are the Sword and Shield Pokemon. They go deeper into the forest, but before we do as well, Sonia catches up to us, tells us that she was reading books from different regions and find out that the Sword Pokemon is called Zacian and the Shield Pokemon is called Zamazenta. We go deeper into the forest where we find a shrine and we pick up a rusted sword while Hop grabs the rusted shield. He says we should take them, and Hop says let's hope they give us good luck. And maybe the Pokemon are sleeping somewhere, but it seems it's not time for them to show up, so we leave. We head back to Hammerlock where the source is, and Aliana asks for our help. Her Pokemon suddenly started Dynamaxing and started going crazy. Raihan helped calm down her Pokemon, but if other Pokemon also start Dynamaxing and go on a rampage, the underground power plant would collapse. And that's where the chairman is. She knows she's being selfish, but she wants us to stop him from awakening a Pokemon named Eternus. Apparently the energy coming off its body is what causes Dynamaxing. And at this rate, every Pokemon will Dynamax and destroy everything. We head inside the energy plant and run into Chairman Rose, who says, "What do we plan on doing? There's nothing to stop because it's already started. The darkest day is here. The darkest day is the ultimate Pokemon, Eternus." The chairman says he doesn't expect us to understand. He says, "I must provide Galar with limitless energy to ensure everlasting prosperity. It's my purpose, my duty, my destiny. This is why we've been giving wishing stars to Eternus. He did this so he could awaken Eternus, and he's not gonna let anyone stop him." And with that, we battle. He sends out Escavalier and I send out Jamie. I go for a body press while he goes for a drill run, doing more than half. With another drill run, he knocks us out. Alright, this is where I was getting manhandled slam. Ferrothorn wipes Ripley out. Berserker comes out and one-shots Jade with an Iron Head, and he does the same thing to Heart. Not even Dynamaxing could save me. Klinklang uses Wild Charge, taking me out. I send my last Pokemon and get whooped by Gear Grind. Yikes. I haven't gotten a beat down like this in a while. It had me thinking, man, I really couldn't do much, huh? And that's when it hit me. We got a Vulpix while doing a gym challenge. Let's use it. So I went inside my box and it wasn't there, and I don't remember releasing it, wondering what happened. And that's when it hit me. Yo, I think I was doing a Poke Job and I never came back for it. So I go and check and we get our Vulpix back. I'm glad to see you too, buddy. Alright, someone's gotta go. And I'm not gonna call out any names, but Heart, skedaddle. We give Vulpix a bunch of steroids and we get it close to the rest of my team. We also evolve it, turning it to a Ninetales. Now, I was supposed to name it, but yeah, I forgot. Now it's time for our rematch. This time I send out Ninetales and one-shot Escavalier with a flamethrower. He sends out Klinklang, and with Ripley I use 2 high horsepowers, knocking it out. He sends out Ferrothorn, and with Ninetales I use flamethrower, expecting to one-shot, and he lives with 1 HP. How? He's cheating! Next turn we knock it out. So he sends out a Berserker and I use flamethrower and he goes for a throat chop. Next turn we knock it out with a flamethrower. Now he sends out Copperhaja and Dynamaxes. I'm faster and land a flamethrower, getting a burn off, but we get whooped by a Max Quake. So I send out Ripley, and with a high horsepower, we knock out his last Pokemon. He tells us he wouldn't expect any less from us and really does wish that he could have seen the match between me and Leon. He says he's sorry that he ruined everything, but it's too bad because it can't be helped. He also says that while trying to solve the energy issue, he awakened a Turnus, but he couldn't control it. Leon came by and he did face the chairman, but he left to beat and catch a Turnus. He says he's probably catching it right now, but if we're curious, to go up the elevator. We meet up with Leon, who is fighting a Turnus and thanks us for coming to see him, but he has everything under control. He weakened a Turnus, but it seems like a Turnus has some power that keeps his Pokemon from Dynamaxing. He says if he catches it, then he will be able to get everything under control. He throws his Pokeball and it breaks out. It runs towards us and now we have to face him. Luckily for us, it couldn't do anything because it kept trying to use poison type moves and we're immune to it. So we spam Play Rough, almost taking it out, but we get knocked out in the end, so I send out Ruby, finishing it off. That's when he goes Super Saiyan 3 and now we have to face him again. But this time, me and Hop team up, and every time we try to attack, we couldn't move because of a mysterious power. That's when Hop had this big brain idea that we should take out the sword and shield, and even though it's rusted, it might be some use. That's when it gives us a cutscene, and it takes us back to the shrine where we grab the sword and shield, and Zacian and Zamazenta wake up and shoot off to the sky. It looks like we're about to get killed, and that's when they appear. Also, the rusted weapons start to float, and that's when they combine together, and it gave powers to the dog. And that's when they go Super Saiyan 3. And with their help, we can take down a Turnus. So to fast forward this, me and Hop ain't do jack for the most part. And I don't know what Hop did, but he kept attacking Hop like he had a personal beef with him or something. Zacian and Zamazenta would use their signature moves the whole time, and they're pretty cool if you ask me. At the end of the fight, Hop got his revenge, getting the last hit, knocking it out. And that's what I'm talking about. Put some respect on his name. After that, we throw a Pokeball at it, catching a Turnus. We see Zacian and Zamazenta dash into the sunset to never be seen again. 3 days go by and we find out that the chairman turned himself in and that Leon still wants to have our championship match even though he was injured badly the day everything went down. Alright, now it's finally time to face the champion. It's been way too long. We make it to the stadium and we get ready. Now I don't know what levels his Pokemon gonna be at, but we're gonna be around 60 and 59, so let's hope it ain't any higher than that. We go to the field where we meet up and he tells us that everyone here knows that we caught a Turnus and that we saved the whole Galar region and that we are a real hero, but he couldn't have dreamed that he had a better challenger to help increase his winning streak. Bruh, he did that. He says crushing me today will show everyone just how truly strong their champion is, and now we fight. He sends out Aegislash and I send out Jamie, and yeah, his Pokemon are higher level. That's crazy. He uses Sacred Sword, taking me real low, and I use high horsepower, one-shotting Aegislash. His next Pokemon is Cinderace, and I switch into Ninetales. Now, I was just gonna use Dig and see what happens, and yeah, it was a tragedy. We get hit with a crit Acrobatics, and when I used Dig, I didn't do much at all. So next turn, we get taken out. Yeah, that was pretty dumb. We send out Dreadnought and we get Acrobatics again. I use Liquidation, getting a KO. Yeah, that was real dumb. His next Pokemon is a Haxorus and I send out Jade. She uses Iron Tail and she misses. So I use an Aurora Beam, taking it to red HP. Next turn she uses another Iron Tail and misses again. So using Aurora Beam, we take it out. Let's go. This could have went bad so fast. Dragapult comes out and uses Flamethrower, one-shotting us. Dang, we ain't stand a chance. I send out Ruby and he's faster, using a Shadow Ball, almost taking us out. Holy cow, that was close. We use Dazzling Gleam, one-shotting him. Seismitoad is next, and with Ripley, I use one drum beating, KOing her. Leon sends out his last Pokemon, Charizard, and Dynamaxes. He uses a G-Max Wildfire, absolutely destroying Ripley. After this, Ruby and Jamie stood no chance, also getting whooped. We sent out Dreadnought, and that's when Charizard went back to normal, so now it's our turn. We Dynamax, and with one Max Geyser, we send him to the Doom Dimension. Leon says that his time as champion is over and it's been a great time. He thanks us for giving him his greatest battle he's ever had. He tells us that we beat the unbeatable champion and we are the new champion of Galar. He says to believe in ourselves and our Pokemon and keep on moving forward to create a brighter future. And with that, we beat the game. Now, I don't know if you actually watched this whole thing, but if you have, thank you so much. This took a lot of time. It took like a month. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and liking the video. I will say I will not do one of these for a hot minute because this just took way too long. But just know I'll eventually pop up another one. But thank you again, and I hope all y'all have a wonderful day. See ya.